You're the big guy.
What?
You don't do that again. I didn't have my camera out.
You gotta send it to homecoming video? Alright, that's it. Y'all can have it.
No, I don't.
I'll go over here.
Hey, Tammy.
I may go over there too. Because the sun's
No, it's not working.
There's Phil.
must have been him.
Well, look, it's not doing it now.
Please ask to be excused.
Right, what are the board members not here though? Charlie and everybody else is here.
No.
We have 10 people. Okay, we'll call the,
Be careful now, this thing almost
April
flips you.
6th, TREPO board meeting to order. It's at 7 o'clock. Can you please stand for the invocation? Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, and we thank you again for the many wonderful blessings that you bring to us. We thank you for such a wonderful neighborhood and the opportunity to enjoy the many blessings that you bring us here. We thank you so much for nature. And Heavenly Father, we ask that you be with those who have suffered this past year, the family members that we have lost, those that have been sick, and just the sheer disasters around our country and the pain and suffering that we've had to deal with. Heavenly Father, we ask that you be with us and give us strength to do the work that you would expect us to do. Give us the courage to stand up and do what's right for our neighborhood and what's good for our friends, and protect our rivers and our streams, and let us do good deeds. In his name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
And we'll pledge to the flag, and Charlie's got a flag there, so I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I'll go ahead and call roll. We don't have a secretary tonight. So, Glenn Hunter, I'm here. Charlie Arnett is absent. He's still sick. Mike Wilson.
Here, brother.
Phyllis Ray.
Here.
Sammy Keene.
Here.
Vonda Ackerson.
Here.
Tommy Trammell.
Here.
Tommy Matthews.
Here.
Joan Nano.
Here.
Charlie Thompson.
Here.
John Brown.
Here.
So we have one absent today. Okay. We will move on to recognize, well, let me see here. Who do we have as, I'm sorry, I didn't call the officers, but Terry Hester, President.
Here.
Randy Newton, Vice President. Randy's absent. Bethany said she couldn't be here tonight, as she had some pending legal matters that before the board that she could not attend. And of course, we have a vacancy in our treasurer. So our alternates, Sassy Johnson, Rick Palm, here. Mary Brayler. I didn't hear from Mary. And Lisa Kirby called, and she's out of state.
She's stuck in traffic.
So, all right, so we'll move forward. I guess we need to, typically we have not been taking care of this matter, but we need to request the board to approve excused members. I did receive a call from Charlie Arnett that, where I did talk with Charlie. He is sick in the hospital, recovering. Haven't heard anything from Randy Newton. Lisa Kirby did call, she's out of state. And Bethany stated that her reason was that she had some pending litigation by the board. So what would be the pleasure of the board? Would you like to take these one-on-one, or how would you like to do it, board members?
Being that we've never had a problem with that before, why don't we just excuse them?
Okay, do we have a second to excuse all of the persons that are not here? We have a second?
I'll second.
Mike Wilson, okay, so it was motioned by Joan and seconded by Mike Wilson. Any discussion on that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I think really we ought to do one by one on this situation. Because I don't know that I can vote for the whole bunch to be excused.
Mr. Chairman,
He was speaking, John.
I'm done.
I've researched how many we've had absent during the meetings. There were 6 people, 6 absences out of 10 meetings by 2 people. 5 absences by other 2 people. This is setting a new precedent.
Okay,
And I think that is not the way to go at this time.
okay. Any other board members? Okay, so, Mr. King?
The last that you're talking about, the people that were absent, or were they excused, or what? Do you know that?
At the time, some were not. And we excused all of them and never took anyone off the board for that reason.
Okay, so we'll move on to anyone else with a discussion, so we'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion to take all the board members, all the ones that are absent and excuse them, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have 2, all opposed, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that motion fails. So is there another motion on the excused absences?
Mr. Chairman, I think we ought to go one by one. Can you list them out again?
Okay, I'll start with the first person was Charlie Arnett.
Okay, I'll make a motion that he be excused.
He's in the hospital?
He's in the hospital.
Correct.
Okay, we have a motion to second. Is there any further discussion on Mr. Arnett? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so Charlie's excused. We will move on to Randy Newton. Pleasure of the board. Mr. Newton hasn't called in.
He hasn't called in. I make a motion that he not be excused.
Okay, we have a second to that motion. Okay, we have a second to the motion. Is there any discussion? All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I oppose.
We have 1 opposed. Okay, we will move on to Bethany Pierce. And Bethany sent an email saying that she couldn't be here because of a matter before the board. I don't know if that's, she could be here, she could be here other than that matter. I don't know that matter would be the one that would be subject to an excuse. That's your choice from that. What's the motion?
Mr. Chairman, did she advise that she was advised by legal counsel not to attend?
No.
I would move that she not be excused.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, Jones opposed. All right, we'll move on to Lisa Kirby. Got an email from Lisa. She is out of state, stuck in traffic, and could not get back today. Okay, we have a motion
I second
by
that.
Randy approved and second by Charles. Is there any discussion on Lisa Kirby being excused? No discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll move on. Board members, you have a copy of the agenda. I've asked for a motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion to approve it.
Motion by Charlie Thompson and second by Tommy Kramer. Is there any discussion on the agenda? Hearing no discussion, call for the vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I abstain.
Mr. Chairman.
Due to the lateness of the hour of getting this, I have very little time to look it over to do any research.
Okay, that's fine.
And
That's
I've
fair.
not been having any email from the board, so that is the reason.
Okay. You abstain, okay.
Mr. Chairman, but we haven't had minutes taken in the last at least couple of meetings.
We'll talk about the minutes next, Mr. Matthews, that will be
Okay.
next. So, Mr. Parliamentarian, did I call for a motion, for a vote on that? That was a motion, I called for a vote, and we had all in favor except one abstained, is that correct?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter who abstains or who.
I just wanted to get.
All you gotta do is say the motion failed, the motion passed.
Thank you very much. I wanted to make sure I called the motion.
You did.
You did.
Okay. All right, so the motion passes. We'll move on to the March minutes, and the March minutes have not been transcribed yet. So I would ask the board that we certainly not approve the March minutes until they can be transcribed. We'll do that in the May meeting, along with the April minutes. Any questions on that? Yes, Jane?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have a copy of the February minutes. Are we gonna go over those?
No, not tonight.
The February minutes, we're not going over.
No, not tonight.
Is there a reason?
I haven't seen them, so I don't.
We haven't had a secretary in the last 3 meetings, Joan, so
We have a
Nothing along that.
substitute that was taking minutes.
we're not gonna debate this, so we're not gonna do it tonight, so thank you. We'll move on to, secretary's report, and, the secretary is not here. She gave reasons, and the board did not excuse those reasons. And actually, just so that you do know that, the secretary has only attended 1 in 7 meetings complete since we've started, back, this new, session of board members. She's been to 1 full meeting out of 7.
Two.
She's been to 1 full meeting out of 7 board members.
Mr. Chairman, what's the procedure on removing someone from office for not doing their job?
We haven't had 7 meetings since the new board was set.
John, you're not voting. Can you wait till you can raise your hand, and I'll call when you respond, okay?
I'm not really quite sure, how to remove an officer. I would think that we could vote on that. I'm absolutely not up to speed on that rule, I'll be perfectly honest with you. It's in the bylaws.
Mr. Parliamentarian, do you have any information related to the question?
Is it part of Robert's Rules of Order or part of the bylaws?
We work off the bylaws, sir.
I can't advise the board on the bylaws. Sorry, Glenn.
Okay. So this probably would not be a meeting to try to do that, but it is a serious matter that we're having to deal with. As you know, we've got some issues that we're dealing with legally and have had to deal with legally. We'll discuss that here in just a few moments when we get to some of these court cases. Yes, John.
According to your bylaws, she is elected by the members. The way that she would have to be removed would be by the members, and that would have to be voted by all of the people that own property.
Thank you. Okay, so what we'll do now, we'll move on to the treasurer's report. Currently, we, with the absence of Evelyn as our treasurer and who has been keeping our books for approximately 10 years, we reached out to Karen Fonts. Is Karen here? Yeah. And Karen, I guess probably back around January, you stepped forward and agreed to take over and assist us in that, or maybe it's February, I'm sorry. February. A lot going on. But I will say this, Karen stepped in, she took over the books, took care of the bill pays, took care of the checks, had a lot of things to deal with, and I want to tonight to say to you, Karen, I very much appreciate the manner in which you took that. You worked with Vicki, and you had a couple of others. I think Vonda worked with you a little bit, and y'all and Terry, our president, got in there, and y'all revived that. Evelyn had done a good job, but with that happening, she had her system. We had to get somebody on board, and y'all graciously took that over and did that. You got us to this point. We called in a bookkeeper, and Carol Strickland, and Carol came in and started working with you and working on getting the statements balanced from the end of the year, bringing the statements forward. She's balanced everything to the penny. She's got the profit and loss statement, complete for January through February 28th. I understand we've just gotten in the, statement for March, is that correct? Or do we have, yeah? Okay, so we're still missing one of the statements. So, you know, we have the second, bank account, we opened up with Drummond's, with Drummond's here in, Fort White. And the purpose of that was to make it easy and accessible to our bookkeepers and the folks working in the parks here to get to the bank, because it's about 25 miles away. So we transferred some dollars over. We started utilizing that. We've got maybe one check left to clear out of the TD Bank, and then we'll be moving all of those accounts over. Currently, our ending balance as of let me do this real quick, I apologize. The ending balance as of the end of February is $102,758. That takes into account $79,000 at the TD Bank, which is $79,339.81. So we're in very, very good shape with checks. Karen, pretty much most of our checks are up to date. If I'm not mistaken, most everything is paid. So we will also later on in the meeting tonight, we'll discuss hiring a bookkeeper, the process and procedure that we want to go through with that. We're recommending that to the board, and I think you'll find that'll be a nice, clean, easy process so that we can get information that we can make available to our members and our board members very quickly. I did have to commend Carol. She came in and spent a significant amount of time bringing the books up to speed, so that and bringing everything to a balance to the point. So we'll discuss that later. What I'd like to do now is move on to yes. Sure.
Is Carol a permanent resident in Three Rivers?
Yes.
She is a permanent resident.
I don't know if she's a permanent resident. I don't know. That's the
It
case.
states in the bylaws that you must be a permanent resident in Three Rivers
To do what?
to be an officer.
She's not an officer.
And the treasurer is an officer.
She's not a treasurer.
Oh, I thought you were suggesting for her to be our treasurer.
No, I'm not.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. I appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, question that.
Yes, Karen.
I just wanted to say, I worked with Carol Strickland, twice, a couple hours each time. I found her very informed on nonprofit organizations and the things that needed to be done behind the scenes that none of us had the foggiest idea about. So, it's nice having somebody who knows what needs to be done before we get kicked in the butt.
Right. I think that also in discussions with her, Karen, you had gone over some of the audit issues and criticisms that we had, and she is already starting to knock those out, and hopefully we should be able to be in compliance with all of those, especially working with CPA and being able to give the monthly reports to CPA so that year-end closeouts will be very accurate and very clear, and no misunderstanding about the members' money. Okay, so what we'll do now, I'll move on to the president's report, and Terry.
I'm asking the DPI, the president, as the figurehead for treasurer, to go back and forth with Carol Strickland and the board and make sure everything gets done that goes to the CPA and all. And so I'm asking the board to vote for DPI on that for treasurer tonight to be the interim person between the board and Carol Strickland.
So that's your recommendation to
Yes,
the
it
board
is.
tonight. So board members, the president has asked us to place in Evelyn Johnson's position as treasurer, Vicki Yon. And Vicki Yon's duties would be to coordinate and see that all of the financial matters are in proper order as directed, and working with the board, working with the bookkeeper, the CPA, and make sure that all of our documents are in order as it relates to our year ends, making sure that we file the right reports and so forth. So, Mr. Scramble?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. M is willing to do this, correctly?
Yes,
Is that correct? Then it's so moved. I move that she be placed in that position as you described.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Trammell,
I'll second it.
second by Charlie Thompson. Is there, any discussion on the treasurer? Okay, it's parliamentary.
May I ask a question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Is she gonna fill the normal election cycle of Evelyn, or is she gonna be permanent, or how is that gonna work?
It would be filling the cycle, because typically the officers are every 2 years, so it would go to the next election. That would be-
Point of clarification, thank you.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Any other questions? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes. Maintenance committee report. John, do you have anything to report on maintenance? I know that, you had a lot to deal with. You didn't have a lot to do really with the water, covering all the grass and everything, but do you have anything you want to report on?
We had a rock replaced down at boat ramp just, a couple of days ago. Porta potty was moved back down below today. I really don't have a whole lot because of the water being up. It's starting to recede. I didn't think it was gonna ever go down again, but it's starting to go down. So far, so good. Should have the grills by the end of the week.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
what I was told.
All right, thank you, John. Mr. Matthews, I think that we had, talked about some signage, that had come up a couple of times about some signage, maybe in a couple of locations for identifiers coming into the parks.
Yeah, we've got a couple of locations, one where, at the end of, across the road, across 27 from Junction Road, where Utah Road begins, in that area, we were thinking about, fixing the place up and putting a 4x8 sign similar to our park signs. And the other location being diagonally across from the old Pope's Grocery, because that's the beginning point of Three Rivers as well. Pricing on those signs is a little north of $1,100, but we're going to have some work, especially if we get approval at Utah, the beginning of Utah, and so it's guesswork. I'm guessing if we had a budget of $2,500, that's including paying for the signs, that we might can get something looking nice.
Could we maybe do something like, to kind of mirror what is here, since that is another main entrance coming
Yeah,
in,
we could,
maybe kind of have it as an east entrance?
I was thinking of a mound of dirt like we have here, and a few stones, and maybe some planting, and
Okay.
just to make it look nice.
Okay, Sammy?
Do we have to get permission on the right of way to do that? Or-
Yeah, we'll have to get some permission.
Yeah, I talked to them last time. They're very amenable to working with us, on that easement. So just talked to the gentleman in Tallahassee.
Do you think it would be a good idea to put a sign like we have around the corner here to show where all the parks here for people coming in? Maybe a smaller one underneath to show where the parks are?
Well, we propose to have some kind of mappage there but it won't be like this.
No, I know,
because it
not
shows
that
the
big.
parks. It'll be at the other end of Three Rivers, and we
Yeah.
haven't come up with an idea yet on how to do that.
Yeah, I think the idea down there is to mirror the one you're talking about.
Right,
That's inside.
right.
That
Good,
one
just
would
make
be
it smaller.
So it would show where you are.
Right.
Got a little bit of a complication on the graphics on that. We've got to get worked out, because of that location, and I'm not sure that artwork is fully available. So,
About the sun, Mr. Chairman.
yeah, we'll have to work on that, John. We'll put you on the committee to work on the sun.
I'll do it.
Yes, John?
Yes, the one that I would like to address also with Mr. Matthews is when we're putting a sign down by Iowa and Newark, we need to keep it on one side of the road because the other side is not TREPO. But down toward Georgia Glen is where TREPO begins. So I would suspect that we should not put a sign on the right side of Newark as we're going down Newark until we get to Georgia Glen, because those houses are not part of TREPO.
Okay.
And I also don't feel that we should have anything at Junction Road because we are a private community. And I really don't think that we should be advertising all over town how to get in. When you buy a key, you know where you are. You own property here.
Well, the only reason I mentioned Junction Road was because that makes people think about where I'm talking about. When I talk about the beginning of Utah,
If
maybe
you
some people don't
own
know where that
property,
is.
sir, you should know where your property is. I really don't think that we should have the park, which is a state park, advertised with us because they do come down to use our parks. When it's full up there and they're turned away, they come here. And that has been happening years and years and years. And you can vouch for that.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not following what she's saying.
I understand.
Explain it to them. Go ahead.
Go ahead,
Can I say something? The reason this was brought up is because of some people that live over that direction. They don't come through this main entrance, they come down Wilson Springs.
Utah.
And no.
Let's just let one person speak.
Over by
John,
the-
just let one person speak.
You're coming down Wilson Springs and you get to where you go to Newark and go straight ahead. Their thought was to put one kind of across, heading towards Newark and also heading towards like Ridge Park. Because to them, it's welcome home. Otherwise, they feel like come in the back door and it's
I
no big
agree,
deal.
it should be on the corner of Iowa and Newark, across diagonally from the store.
There's a big yellow sign. If you're sitting on Wilson Springs at the stop sign, looking straight ahead, Hope Store is to your left.
Right.
Straight ahead is a yellow sign with a black arrow. To the left of that, I looked at it today, there should be plenty of room there. You could have an arrow going up and then one to the side. It's not saying that is actually, you're heading that direction.
I agree, it needs to be on that corner. Because half of Iowa is us and the other half is not.
Right.
So we need to keep it on that property that's diagonally across from the store. I agree with that 100%. And then further down, as TREPO starts on Newark, we should have another sign that lets you know that this is the private property. And this is Three Rivers property owners' estates. That's our identification.
Okay, we're going to end that discussion on that. Let me just clarify, I think again, what Mr. Matthews was saying. No different than when you turn in on the west entrance here, you come in and you see a sign that says Three Rivers Estate, and it has all of the parcels platted out, shows where things are. It doesn't matter if where the sign sits, if the sign has the streets and the properties located that I'm here and this is here, it absolutely gives someone a sense of direction as to where they are and how to get there to the bridge parks and so forth. We were requested by quite a number of property owners that live on the east side if we would consider giving them some signage very similar to the signage that's here on the west side, because it doesn't take but a turn to that property to start being in all of the Three Rivers properties. So the recommendation I believe that you're making tonight is to place the sign visually as you're coming down Wilson Springs Road. You pull it to where you are. It can be representative of that location that actually has connectivity to those properties. Is that your recommendation?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Trammell?
Mr. Chairman, my question is for Matthews. You said that some of this requires county approval. Do you foresee that being a problem?
Yes, sir, I don't.
And do you think that $2,500 is going to be sufficient?
Well, I pulled a number out. Almost $1,200 would be signage, so that leaves another $1,200, $1,300 to put a little dirt, a couple of rocks, a little planting, and I think that should be enough money to do that.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that Mr. Matthews and those that are working in his direction be approved for $2,500 maximum. If more is needed, then he can come back to the board and request it, contingent upon the county approval for the purposes prescribed.
We have a motion by Mr. Trammell. Motion clear to board members. We have a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. King. Any discussion?
Yeah, no, the one at Pope's Grocery diagonally across, yes, that's county approval. The other one is gonna be,
It's the easement with Duke Energy.
Yeah.
That still may be part of her, and that's easement.
So,
We've gotten approval
Yes.
before as we did the front entrance.
let's just kind of clarify what you're saying.
Then I would just, do if that's proper, but I could.
Well, we have a motion and a second, so, that should be, I mean, it's very clear. I think we can go forward with that. Is there any other discussion?
On contingency that we get approved from Duke Energy.
Well, we can't do it if we don't.
Right.
So we have a motion and a second. What's the pleasure of the board? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll move on to this one. Thank you, Mr. Matthews, for getting all that together. We're gonna move on to, Communications Committee, and, Communications Committee has been, very, very busy. Has actually, morphed into, a membership committee, with Vonda and, her team to, go back and pull together, some efficiencies that we have in getting keys out and so forth, and communicating to, folks who have been sending in messages, of distress about trying to get their keys and their checks and so forth. So I don't wanna steal any thunder from you, but y'all have a good job. You wanna go ahead and go forward, Vonda.
It was the communications committee, it was also Terry. Terry has stepped in and kind of taken charge as the president to make sure that everything she's overseeing, to make sure everything goes out, and all of us have knocked on doors, trying to get to the bottom, because we had a lot that we couldn't tell who owned the property. It's in a different name through the county when you go to the property appraisal. Someone sends in $50, they get, it goes to it. So we had to write letters, knock on doors, answer really bad phone calls. My husband got together into one of his phone calls. So at this moment, one of our members has my personal key because she had company coming in and she needed a key. So we now have her keys and I'm trading out with her tomorrow. But I didn't think it was fair to have such a nice weekend and someone be locked out of our parks. Also, I do have the count that I have, since we're on membership, as of this moment, it's 808 members, as of today. That is 747 on the Columbia County side and 218 on the Swanee County side. So, well, I'm just going off of Bethany's numbers plus the ones that we crossed.
Yes,
Well, I just,
if you would please, we'll just go one at a time, thank you.
I just got, we have the Excel spreadsheet, nothing has been added to it, nothing's been taken away from it. And I just showed it to John, cause I sent Mike Foray to see if he would give me the count. Because right now, we're in turn and burn and get keys to the people. So everything I've got is in paper. I made a file for anyone we've touched, talked to, emailed keys. I mean, we just sent 20 of them that we had to re-stamp, but they just never received them. They were probably sitting on the floor somewhere in the post office, somewhere. So I feel we gotta get the members taken care of. That's the bottom line, because I mean, these people are paid November, December, January, and now we have beautiful time, the winter's gone down, and they want their keys. So we're moving forward, but the numbers he just sent me was, it was 808, that was 747, Columbia County, and 218 on the Swanee side. So we will have a more accurate count next month. We've got everything that she sent us in that Excel spreadsheet. I didn't want to mess anything up, so when Thursday, we're gonna start inputting it and updating it. Terry's gonna help me with that, and then we will have more true and accurate numbers. But we've got to kind of spot check too, just to make sure that the information that's in there Because when we did get the files, a few things that had happened to the file is some of the columns have been merged. When they're merged, they won't, you can't pull your reports. You'll have text in the numerical column, you'll have numbers in the text column, and they don't flow well. So Mike Frey has spent a lot of time on it, trying to get it back to he can use it. So that's why I haven't messed with it. And we just gotten keys out to people. We've mailed, we've resent, someone said they got one key, which I don't know how it happens, but they're getting another key. So, and if anyone here does not have a key, or you have a friend or a neighbor that does not have their keys, please have them reach out to us so we can get keys in their hands. And we should be about to wrap this up. Anything with
Anything,
communications?
board members? Any board members? Well, I want to commend y'all on your efforts because you really had a lot of research to do, especially in some of those envelopes that were containing checks that went back to November and December, that people were constantly sending in communications wanting to know, why is my check, where is my check, and then I cashed my check, where are my keys? Y'all methodically went down each and every single one. You made a hot list, and you attacked that hot list, and you got to those folks. If everyone can hear us and you have a friend or you hear anyone that says there's an issue with the key, all you have to do is reach out to the communications group. Who's it? Communications group?
Yes.
Reach out to the communications group and they'll respond as they have been doing. And Terry, I very much appreciate you coming over from the member's side and assisting and working with them on that. So feel very, very comfortable that we should have this back on call. And Mike Perret seems to believe he'll be able to have a good clean list shortly. Is that correct?
He said he's there. That's where he took his numbers from.
Okay.
So Thursday, we will be ready to then everything. I got a few more things unsigned, like someone will send in, and this is just anybody that's listening. Next year when it's time, make sure the name that you put on your application, everybody that's experienced this, make sure the name is the name of the property owner because we have to go into the property appraiser site. Also, if you have not received a newsletter or something, somehow something's not right, make sure that your address and information, contact information on the property appraiser site is correct because that's what we can check it off of. And if you did not receive a newsletter, reach out to us and let us know so we can see where those came from and what's going on with that. But go to TREPO.net and you can send us a message. You can go to the Three Rivers Estates Facebook page, send a message. And we all have phone numbers, email addresses. Reach out to us at TREPO.net.
Okay, thank you, Vonda. Okay, we'll move on then to some discussion and action items. We've got 4 major park related concerns that seem to just really started to come to the surface this year. And the first item that I have here on the agenda is the volume level of audio, the noise, the music noise that's in the parks. This is a fine example of a park located within a neighborhood. Have had significant numbers of calls, and rightly so. I actually can hear the music. I'm probably 25 houses down, and I can hear the music in this park at some particular times. How we address this is a private park. There is not a noise ordinance in the county. However, this is a private park, and I believe that this board has the right to establish some standard or benchmark for noise control in our park. This is a community park, belongs to all of us. We're here to represent the members, and so I'm sure that many of you here have experienced that. And I will say that it seems like to me sometimes we get the battle of the bands here. We've got a pavilion and a pavilion. It seems like music is rocking back and forth. We did have some karaoke here. First time it was extremely loud. It was a very popular event. They changed it around to try to accommodate and place the music facing this way. Still was kind of loud. They toned it down. It seemed to be better.
I think it was still a good night by everyone, but, this is something that we need to address. Now, as it relates to, responsibility, who's responsible if someone is in the park making noise? If it's a member, do they have are they in a pavilion? Is everybody in that pavilion responsible? Do they have the pavilion secured? Who takes responsibility for that? How do we do that? I'll just put this on here tonight for discussion. I know there's some folks, I do see some folks here that have called out of concern because they can hear it vibrating the walls of their homes, and they're asking for us for some relief. There's nothing wrong with music. I absolutely encourage it, but we have to find a level that is tolerable for what we're going to do, how we're going to conduct business. So, Joan, you can start.
Yes, in our policies and procedures, it does establish a time limit, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. After that, it is quiet time. So if we adhere to that, that would probably help what you're discussing.
Actually, John, what I'm talking about is the time in between, that other time, during the daytime, like right now. It wouldn't be acceptable right now. It wouldn't be acceptable at 5 o'clock. It wouldn't be acceptable at 4 o'clock. That's my thought. That's my opinion. It's an opinion that's been expressed to me by quite a number of property owners that live around the parks. There's probably a very good happy medium to find that. There's nothing wrong with some radio and music playing. However, I don't know how we can establish this, but this is our park. It belongs to everybody. And a few should not ruin that for the many. So we should be able to have music, and we should be able to do it in an orderly manner. So I'll throw it out there for discussion. Charlie?
We also got a complaint about profanity in some of the music. I guess there was a child out here and somebody was blaring some. Okay, just making sure. I mean, I think everybody loves the music and they definitely enjoy karaoke. I'm really glad we got that and hope to keep it. But yeah, maybe we just cut it down. We need to just figure out how we can turn it down just a little bit.
Well, my point is how do we police that? I mean,
maybe whoever reserves that pavilion is the one responsible for everybody. Now, our good friend DJ Ice Cream Chris, he mentioned earlier that maybe we just use one speaker instead of two, so we can keep that down and still all have a lot of fun. So I'm all for that idea. Sounds like a great idea. But I think whoever reserves the pavilion needs to be the one responsible.
Okay, Mr. Brown?
Mr. Chairman, I'd recommend that since it is rather complicated, and there may be some exceptions, that maybe if you would like, you could form a committee, and let's come up with some proposed rules. I think those rules might fit into the policies and procedures that you're talking about, without having to be and the other rules established by the board. So, would that be something that the chair would entertain, or is that something that?
Well, a committee's nice, and I think the committee can set a lot of parameters and discuss a lot of things, but I think that folks are asking for some relief right now.
They have decibel meters, don't they have something to measure decibels?
There is
decibel limit.
There is a decibel meter. Yeah. It depends on where you're standing and how it's projected. There's a lot of ways around that.
20 feet from the speaker, no more than 4,000 decibels, whatever they have.
Are you a sound lady?
No, but I know somewhere where they monitor the decibels for damage to people's hearing.
Yes.
So I know they can monitor the decibels.
I'm not picking. I think that's good. I was hoping you were. Yes, sir, you have a question in the back?
Well, I think part of it is the common courtesy is kind of going out the window. The thing is, when you have all these different pavilions and everybody's competing to hear all these different types of music, you're at your pavilion, you're with your group, put it where your group can hear it, not to where I can hear it right down the road. I know this happens. Last time I was down here with the deputy the other night ago, one person decided he wanted to park right outside the gate and turn his bass up where my house can rattle. Okay, but during the park, while all of us members are here, You know, I think we ought to have the courtesy for each other. You know, we're here for one purpose. This is a family type situation. You got small children. You know, I've had jobs before where I've had to tell people, look, this is for families. This is not for you to have your frat party type atmosphere here. It's got to be taken care of. But if we don't monitor it ourselves, outside is not going to be very effective at all. Just good job for animosity. The thing is, if we can just relate to people and say, look, I can't hear what's going on over here. Would you please keep it down a little bit where we can all enjoy nature? Besides, I'm sure the otters and the beavers and the birds don't like it. I could hear the first bird whenever they had the karaoke. When the karaoke cleared up, about 10 minutes later, all the birds started talking.
Okay, so, Mr. Trammell has he's requesting maybe that we put a committee together to study how we could,
Committee.
do this, of course, it would have to be monitored. And, you're gonna have to put something, and
Who's going to come in and call that person down, because we do need a benchmark as, ma'am, what was your name? You're married, okay. Oh, okay, I thought you were married. All right, and sir, what was your name in the back?
James, but
James Baker, okay, I did a phone call, James, so, all right, so Mr. Trammell?
just one more thing. I think it was Mr. Thompson that mentioned that, it should be the responsibility of the person that, has, either rented it, or I guess are they required to go, to request these pavilions first, John, is that correct? I'm sorry. Okay, so I'd go back to that. I would say that each person that requests to use a pavilion is the responsible party. And if that's the case, then the approach might be that, whether it be board director or whomever it is authorized to do so, would go to them and ask them to turn it down, and they should be forewarned that if they fail to do so, that it could result in a suspension of their park privileges, and the board has the authority to do that.
Yes, sir. Well, Karen, your hands up first.
The one night, there was a party going on at 10 o'clock. A lot of noise. That was not a reserved pavilion. That was, nobody was there, so they were gathering. So you have a reserved pavilion here where you can control it, but then on the other hand, nobody's there, so of course it's gonna be used. So it's a slightly different
Well,
scenario.
we'll address that, at the end, because we, in the third, item. So we'll address that. Yes, Vicki?
At the time that the pavilion is reserved, whatever member they're talking to, maybe at that time we could also stress to that person, you are in charge, you're responsible for your group. We have had complaints about profanity and loud music, so you are responsible. You know, beware if the law gets called or whatever happens, you are responsible for that pavilion, for that time frame. So maybe just making the mindset that they are responsible.
Yes.
Yep, exactly. I can't speak for all the other loud music systems that are down here, but I can speak for karaoke, which is a community event that's brand new, and we're just, testing out the sound for that as of February 27th. There's been 2 shows, been a blast, everybody's had a good time. So we're just testing out the sound. We don't know nothing about nothing until, we do it and see how the sound, if it's too loud, turn it down. Real simple. We just go with 1 speaker instead of 2. Face it out that way. There you go. It's 50% reduced. It's done. Everybody's still having a good time, enjoying singing, dancing, and there's a lot of dancing going on, and just, being entertained. So there's the solution to that.
Backyard, I was out in the backyard. And
Okay, let's have a discussion back with Sammy.
We were just looking at it, it's all comes down to noise and all, okay. But what a suggestion would be is to, maybe make some signs up here and put them up here to, address, be considerate of your neighbors next door in the, pavilion, and just put, let's go ahead and make some signs and put it up. I think that would help a lot, man.
So I think the committee would, the idea of the committee would be
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, that would be
Let's
good.
go ahead and get this message out on the noise.
Well, I think if we're gonna go ahead and do a committee to do it, and they decide on a time, do you think they need to go ahead and come back to the board next month?
Well, I think
Or
we
let's
just need
go
to,
ahead and
to lay out how we're gonna, what are the steps and procedures and how do you monitor it? Because people need to understand that there are some consequences.
Right,
if you
right.
Don't wanna play fair.
Right.
The comment about, these pavilions should be reserved under a person's name who takes responsibility.
Right.
For all the people that are here, they take responsibility. If they choose to allow their group, to be disorderly, and have music that's disorderly, they take responsibility.
Well, what is the responsibility? What are we gonna do to them?
But that may be something the committee can decide, but their privileges to the parks could be revoked.
Don't reserve that, allow that key number to reserve the pavilion for like 2 months or whatever.
What, Don?
Don't reserve it as somebody else's name.
Well, that's what I'm saying, you know, we don't have anybody that polices the area to oversee all this.
Right.
Yes, many times after I'm coming by and they've got now we're closing the gate, well, the gate's wide open, I've stopped twice and a lot of people just, you know, looked at me like I was, you know, the bad person.
Right.
You're a gate
But,
crusher.
no, I'm a gate crusher. But, yeah, but they're tying it up again, we shouldn't be, but who what is the situation we could make an officer to police the area? I mean,
Well, we'll discuss this with the
okay,
committee. We'll let
okay.
the committee,
Let the committee
come
do
up with
that?
it, kind of look at it. Maybe we can talk to some other associations, and see how they handle
True.
it, because I guarantee you, any of you've ever been in, homeowners groups in other locations on the beach or whatever, your butt's out of there.
That's right.
We'll put you in jail,
Mhm.
I'm telling you. So, yes, John.
Yes, when the pavilion is reserved, it goes through the, the computer at TREPO. I have not seen the rules published there. Maybe that would help, because we did cover this a while back. And when Vicky Ime was, where's Vicky? When Vicky Ime was here, we did the policies and procedures, and they covered all of this because we did have problems then. Yes, our numbers are growing, but yes, we do have to take and make sure that when you reserve something, that you're going to do it in an orderly fashion and you're going to abide by the rules.
That's what I was fixing to say. Actually, whenever you reserve the pavilion online, you have to check the box that says, I agree that I'm responsible for all of my guests.
Charlie?
Absolutely.
We got another one too.
So the key thing is.
Can I keep this copy or do you need it back?
In your policies and procedures, number 6, I'll make you a copy.
Okay, can you just email that to me then?
I could, yeah, I'll have to type it all out.
No, you scan it, need it.
I can't.
The key
I'm
point we have to
stupid.
make though is whatever we do has to be,
I'm
it has to
stupid.
be enforceable, and we can't put Joan in charge of policing these pavilions and not have any ability.
You have to have teeth.
Yeah, okay, yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I think she had her hand up first.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like to mention about the sound, being a nerve kind of person and being a healthcare provider for 40-something years. That sound is actually very harmful, especially to young people. Like little babies cry at fireworks, not because they're scared, because it's painful. So when you have little kids out here, and you have this thing cranked up, you're damaging people's hearing. And you know, the teenagers, they do that all the time.
Mary, I think there's not one person here that doesn't agree that we've got to find a standard, that we can operate by that works for the neighborhood. We just gotta, find and get to that point. So, you have a question, sir?
Well, I think you may be getting a little lost in minutia here about the pavilions. anybody can play music anywhere, whether they're down on the beach or right here.
Right.
So don't get yourself bottlenecked into pavilions here.
Yeah, they sit out there in their
It needs to be in the park,
trucks
because they could be sitting down there in the water with the glass, they could be sitting over here underneath that tree light, they could be sitting over here at this tree light.
Right.
So don't get yourself kinda, everybody's
No,
talking.
and that's understandable. At least we can police our pavilions. And if we have an individual with a boombox over here, we can incorporate that in the rules, and I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
don't get yourself settled into just a pavilion though.
There's a gentleman in the back. Yes, sir.
I have a question, well, not a question, one of those things, there is a noise ordinance in Columbia County, and I'll send that over to you guys, so maybe basically off that.
I would love to see it, because I
sent it to one that just.
told there was not one. Okay, Tommy, why don't we put together a committee to discuss all parts of this, parts of it? Yes, sir.
I just want to say something. I'm gonna have to go, but I got a question. You got 4 agenda. Is one of those concerning the ATV problem that I brought up and explained to Trammell, you know, what was going on and the people that should be on these roads that are not? Does that have any of the agenda?
That's not on here tonight.
Okay, because did you?
Yes.
Let me get with you after the meeting, or I'll call you.
I've got to go, and I'm also going to lay something else on you. I'm going to have to resign from the board. Between the health problems I've had in the past and my wife she's going to get a heart reset. She's not doing good. It's been a year and a half. I'm stressed out and wore out dealing with her.
And you're too old.
And I'm too old. I'm 80 freaking years old. I don't want to get any more hassles.
Well, Mike, I'm sorry for that.
I can send you a note if you want me to, but I suggest that you pull somebody in here that's going to help with the work. Some of the people that got kind of pushed out, that built, maybe the fella that rebuilt that park and did all this stuff at the point. I mean, I really think things like that should be looked at. It's Cartwright. All right. I'm sorry. Been here a long time, but I got to go.
I wish you would, Mike. Thank you.
But Trammell, let me know about that, because I'm getting really upset on what's going on in our street, and some of the other people are. This bullshit, noise or not. Dozen at a time coming down there at 11, 12 o'clock at night and later, ripping the roads up, ripping the medium up. Some of them aren't even from here. And I've gone out and verbally confronted them very nicely. It was told this, and old man, get your ass back in the house.
Call the law.
I have. They don't do any damn good.
If you call them enough, they'll get tired of it.
Well, we need more people to do that, because this thing that
Yeah.
if you go look at county, somebody finds the records, they passed only ATVs type, not ATVs, they passed an ordinance here, golf carts and side-by-sides. I was there at the meeting, we brought it up. Nothing was passed about some of these little things that were, what's just going on down the road. So it's not safe, it's gotta come to an end. I've got to go, folks. Thank you. I've had a lot of, also, on the fish fry, I'm not going to be able to handle the fish fry. I highly recommend you turn this over to Jesse Crane. Jesse has given me some good insight. He has people that want to help him. He's also trying to build it up to where he can have more people come eat, and they won't have to charge for this one. He thinks he's going to get it paid.
Thank you. Thanks, Mom.
Now, I'll put this on record. I've got to go. Bye, folks.
Okay, we've got really 4 items. We're going to run out of time if we debate each or discuss each of these like this, but we've got profanity and behavior in the park, and we've got an awful lot of members that are just feel very, very offended when they're coming through our gate, and we've got folks over here that are drinking and excessively using profanity. A lot of folks that have their grandchildren and they're coming by and they're witnessing all this. I gotta be honest with you, it really needs to stop. There's no reason for it. Once again, how do we stop it? So how do we police our park? How do we police it? Pardon? So. Okay, look, thank you for that comment. So board members, I guess we need to die trying. So, what's the, what would you, how would we deal with this?
Mr. Chairman, I'd let the committee deal with all 4 of those items.
Okay.
I mean, they're all related.
Okay.
So the other item is the dusk till dawn closure that pretty much that we've been saying. Now you say it's 9 to 9.
It's 9 to 9 quiet time. There is no closure at dusk. Because if I want to go down swimming when it's a full moon or kayak during the full moon, we're allowed. There's no loitering in the pavilions or the park. We made that very clear when we wrote these. You can check with Mrs. Ives. When we wrote the policies and procedures, that was something we covered in depth.
Okay, so what, Mr. Tremble, who would you like to recruit to be on your committee? We've got a member out there volunteering.
Yeah, with your permission, we could use people too who aren't on the board.
Absolutely.
All right, so Reese Davis would be a good one to be on there. Let's see.
He would be on there.
Charlie Thompson, you were sounding off there and making good comments. Would you be willing to assist with it?
Whatever you need, sir.
All right. Does anybody?
We have 4 right
You
now.
got too much.
Mr. Baker, James Baker. Okay.
Yeah, stand up so I can, and tell me your name so we can. Okay, Mr. Baker, James Baker. And
correction, the hours do go, dawn to dusk.
Yes, that's correct. It's down to dusk.
He's right. I just looked it up under our policies and procedures, sun up to sundown.
I just wanted to mention that there's different sets of rules for different parks, depending on how they're utilized. The rules at Camping Park are totally different than the rules at Hoder Park. So the committee needs to go over the policy and procedures that we have for each park. And if you're gonna modify, you need to keep that in mind, that every park's treated a little bit different.
Is there somebody in the back who wanted to be, Hilda, did you? Hilda Gilchrist.
Okay, Skip.
Hilda Gilchrist, Skip. Reese, Charlie.
Yeah, I don't know some of these things. Shirley Matthews is ready. Matthews, your wife is going to be on the board. Is that a conflict of interest? Okay, so we'll put Shirley on there. Mr. Chairman, if it could, some of these members just meet me after the meeting, and we'll make sure we got all the names, and with the help of the president here, we'll hopefully put this committee together, and then we'll discuss what we need to do next. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so we have nothing else to discuss on the park-related concerns. And I have to tell you that I'm concerned that we've got about 4 weeks or so here of time before our next meeting. So I don't know how we can deal with it other than perhaps maybe sticking our nose out there, and if any of us board members want to stick our nose into some of these pavilions and ask people to turn their music down or clean it up a little bit, we are stepping out a little bit. But we really need to do something because it needs to stop. So, yes, sir.
Well, as a stopgap measure, why don't we hire a private security? We certainly have the financial means to do that, and that would be a good first step.
Lynn?
Yes, sir.
We used to have a security guy that rode around when I was a kid. Said he threw several of my friends out of this park for using profanity when we were teenagers. So.
And probably you too. You say several of us?
Probably. Probably.
Okay. I don't know if the board's prepared to do that tonight. That needs to be part of the discussion as to how and when we place those there. But it could be that through the summer. One other thing I just thought about is the fact that we have gate greeters, and we can, Mr. Campbell, you can deputize them, can't you? We can use the gate greeters, maybe with a little education and training. We can actually
better explain the rules when it gets a little out of hand, but we've got to stop it somehow. So, we've got a good committee together, we'll start working on that. And Rick, I like your idea, if that's something that we're gonna have to do, maybe we can have a stopgap between that, but remember, our greeters only come on
8 hours.
Memorial Day, and then, to Labor Day. So we have a lot of big gap in between, and we need to be very consistent throughout the year. So we're gonna move on to the next item. Sorry, we couldn't do any more there. Maybe we got a good start. So we have 2 court cases that are still open. Heiser Crane, the magistrates ruled, on Heiser and Crane's court case. Right now it's, in, the final portions of determining what the attorney's fees will be, with the 2, defendants. So I won't go any more into that case. And, the other case, Bethany Pierce, we did file in March, after the board meeting, injunctive relief, with Bethany to, return the key machines and keys and intellectual knowledge or intellectual property, and, she did do that after the board had twice requested that she return those. However, the intellectual information that we received back, or the Excel information received back, was a pile of junk. So at the end of the day, that case is still pending. We will be talking with the attorneys as to where we will be going with that case. So we'll move on now to hiring a bookkeeper. Yes.
The case with, Linda Heiser and Jesse Craig
Yes.
has been dismissed.
It has, okay.
Yes, sir.
Dismissed.
Dismissed.
Well, that's good.
It's because the paperwork was not done correctly. They did not mirror the, letter to the board and the letter to the, DBPR. And it's been dismissed.
Oh, okay. There's an action by our attorneys to collect attorney's fees. That's still open in that case.
If they dismissed it before there was any investigation, there should be no charge.
I'm glad you're in the legal profession. That's great.
No, I just consulted an attorney.
Okay, well, that's good. But right now, the case is before the magistrate, and that she'll make the determination based on the paperwork that's filed. Okay? So we'll move on to the next item. Hire a bookkeeper. And board members, you've heard the discussions related to where we are with bookkeeping. It's my recommendation to you, and working with Terry Hester and the team that was working on the accounting, that we hire a bookkeeper, that we pay her $250 a month, and that she will be providing the full reports. She will be working and sending reports to our CPA monthly. The CPA will review the reports, and then the CPA at the end of the year will file our returns. So we'll have some distance between all of that. I think $250 a month for what we're asking to do, and make sure all paperwork is filed is a very fair fee. I think it will actually take stress off of members who have been having to do this volunteer and trying to get this work done. We'll have a contract to get that done, and that's my recommendation, that we hire.
Mr. Chairman, could they report to us monthly?
We'll have a monthly report with a balanced profit loss statement. You'll get that every month. We're going to go back and file January, February, and March, and then you'll have April. It'll be filed on the website.
Yeah.
So what's the pleasure of the board?
Did you get more than one bid?
I did not.
Is there a reason?
Just did not. We're working with someone who came in and did a good job, and that's what we're recommending. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion by John Bryant and a second by Tommy Matthews. Any further discussion?
Very cheap.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we will now, move on to, any new business that, anyone wants to bring up before the board tonight. Yes, sir.
What about parks for the kids, or a place for the kids to play? Playground.
Okay.
Well, that was actually on my list to bring up tonight too, Glenn. So I talked to you about that last night, actually. So yeah, I know that Glenn has worked on that in the past to put something together. It's been a few years back. I'd really like to see us go forward with that. There's a lot of kids out here, and I think it would be great. You know, mom and dad could use the Wi-Fi while kids play, and I just think it would be a good thing. So.
We discussed that about the play equipment too.
So, what did you name, sir?
Play castles.
Clay Cast?
Castles.
Castles, okay. Thank you, Clay, for that, recommendation. Any other board members want to, address that, speak to that? Yes, sir.
Well, you tell you that we live right across the street from the park, right over there. And the happiest sounds we ever hear from this park are little kids playing down there by the water with their families and everything. That should be priority this park and all the parks.
Absolutely.
Okay, so, yes, sir.
Well, I was gonna suggest and make a motion to, make a committee to see about getting some play equipment in here, for the kids.
Now, don't we have another lot up here on the corner?
No, sir.
No.
No, actually, I would be perfectly honest with you, if you're gonna do a playground, I like the fact that Rick said little kids.
Yeah.
That's really what a playground would be if we were to go forward with that. I don't think you want the bigger kids.
Oh, no.
And I think you want a very small footprint. And, because you don't want to take up the entire park, but just a small footprint, it would be in my opinion, something that kids that could not maybe, themselves go to the water, that the mothers could come and utilize some very small equipment for, younger kids. A nice small enclosed area that's got an area they could sit and read and, enjoy while other kids
Say
are.
break it off from this kind of.
Yeah, maybe you could set something out in another little area, we could take a look at that as a committee and see, but I would recommend a very small footprint and something for very young children.
I'll second his motion to have it.
Okay? Yes, ma'am.
Mother says really nice park over there on 90 when you go down, I'm not road and you come out at 90 and they there, and nice developers put a really nice little park in there for kids and, they're probably got something.
Okay, thank you, yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I would recommend that you also contact your insurance company, because if you put in a playground of any size, of any shape, it does carry some liability with it. So they need to be sure that they're signed off on it.
You know, I want to address that because of all the vendors that come here, and we all share that liability, and none of the profit is our common parks here. So I'm just kind of sick about hearing about this liability every time the residents and the members want to do something, but all the people that don't live here, nobody ever
This
considers
doesn't have
that
to be
liability.
confrontational, that is a very important point, Mary, that he's making. I did contact the insurance company, there is an added expense, and that will be looked at, there is an added expense to make sure that we have that liability covered, but that can be addressed, with the committee, so I'll reach out to a few board members and, see if we can't pull something together. We did have a design a few years ago. At one time, the reason it was canned before is because of liability. It was to be too expensive. However, the carrier says that, it's very doable now. But I still recommend that we have a very small footprint, and it's for very young children. So,
May I ask something?
yes, please.
Where would you put the park? Up
We don't
here?
know. We would study.
Don't put it up here, put it down there where parents can watch.
Yeah, we'll
So they can come and
explore.
enjoy the park too, not just have park for kids.
and use the Wi-Fi. If you're using the Wi-Fi, you're not watching the TV.
Well, we thank you for that, and we'll take that into consideration. So, is there any other? Yes, right there.
The newsletter is out. We had to use the old file because the new file was not in a good enough condition to pull and mail from that particular file. I'd like to thank Susan Nelson and Rick Palm for what they have done, and I think we can be real proud of our newsletter. They're doing an excellent job.
Okay,
I have one question.
okay.
What is our not-for-profit status at this time?
We still waiting to hear back from IRS.
From who?
IRS.
Internal Revenue Service.
I hear what you're saying, but we haven't got any response in 4 months.
No, we haven't.
I ain't got no words like that.
Mr. Chairman, since you asked me a question earlier about the bylaws.
Yes, sir.
John, would you please read section 6 of the bylaws, please?
I have one more question.
Sure, why don't you look and go ahead.
Okay. Picnic tables. How come we don't have more picnic tables on the ground? You know, they're all up here, but we don't have any more on the ground.
Nobody's asked.
Well, they fill up pretty fast on the weekend. And it would be nice to have a little picnic table you can come sit at, even if it is in the sun or in the shade or whatever.
So you've been up here and you haven't been able to get a picnic table.
I found it.
Is that right?
Several times.
We'll address that with our next steps on the construction around this area here, so we'll address that.
Okay, John, read number 6, please.
Sure.
We have one last thing.
The corporation through its board of directors shall have the power to fix and determine from time to time a sum or sums necessary and adequate to.
No, ma'am, number 6, please.
That's number 6.
Number 6 on page 3, please.
Page 5, you're,
Now, I want you to read
you
number.
have a
I want
different
you to-
number 6.
Excuse me, John, I want you to read number 6 on page 2.
On page which?
Page 2, number 6.
Page 2.
And board, you really should bring your bylaws with you.
Every director and every officer of the association shall be indemnified by the association against all expenses and liabilities, including council fees.
Are you on page 2?
I'm on 3, page
Page
6.
2, number 6.
That's article, okay. You want article 2? Well, you have different.
You have page 2 on your bylaw.
Okay, article 2, page number 6, correct?
Number 6, yes.
Absence of the part of any member or alternate member of the board from 3 meetings, whether regular or special, within a calendar year, shall be deemed a resignation unless formally executed by the board of directors and recorded in the minutes of the meeting. This would be based on a normal year of 4 regular meetings and 2 special meetings.
Okay, does that answer your question, Glenn, about the bylaws?
I understand, Bill. I understand, Bill. Got it. Thank you. Okay.
That's a board of directors, it's not an officer.
We'll move on to old business and the April 24th picnic. Our picnic chairman is gone. So we've always fried fish and had maybe a little bit of chicken on that Saturday, the 24th, which is when it's going to be this year. So what do you want to do, board members?
who's gonna be in charge of it?
Bob just said peanut butter and jelly. What do you want?
I think peanut butter and jelly sounds pretty good.
I'll fry it like we always have, if y'all want to.
Okay,
Tommy, you want to?
We got the fryers.
Yeah.
The guys that will be frying, so how do we want to coordinate that?
Do we want to?
Put that on Terry, you have some thoughts?
Well, I know Don told me to give y'all that what I need to go pick up. So I guess that would get the ball rolling. I mean, I guess some of the women could get together and do the sides.
Wasn't someone gonna check with the young room?
They're gonna be giving out the food, yeah.
I've already talked to their commander, they're willing to help, but they don't have any details yet, but we don't have any either.
Okay, you gotta have somebody, take it on and knock it out, even though we got folks that'll fry and deliver and handle and whatever, so. Okay, so, so you're gonna share it, Terry? Okay, so board members, y'all gonna support Terry with that effort?
Holler if you need me.
Terry, usually the Busy Bees helps serve the food, and sometimes we bring desserts as well. So we have a meeting next Tuesday, so I'll be trying to get some volunteers to help.
Okay, when is our meeting gonna be at the clubhouse?
We'll probably be right here.
Okay.
We
What
have a
time?
luncheon.
What time?
We're gonna eat at 12
Okay.
on Tuesday.
Okay, so y'all will coordinate, that,
That part of it, yes.
and the picnic will, what time would the food need to be served for the picnic? Well, I guess that's when it started being. Okay, yes, Phil.
What time is the meeting going to be?
No, if I misunderstood that she's taking over Busy Bees and they usually bring the desserts, the members usually bring the desserts of which the Busy Bees are. But I don't know if we'll have enough desserts on the Busy Bees brand, because losing Millie and losing Evelyn, we've lost some of our Busy Bees also.
Right.
And Reba, had COVID and she's at home not doing very well, so I don't know if she'll make it or not. So, but it's always been the members, along with,
Yeah.
The Busy Bees that's brought the desserts, so.
Can we put it in a newsletter?
Everybody has
It's in the newsletter that they can bring their desserts.
Okay.
Okay, so food will be served around 12:30, we'll have a little, I think Terry will make a little, speech to the folks that are here that day, and, then, we'll serve, and then, we'll have a good day. All right? Is there anything else we need to bring before the board? Yes?
Is there gonna be a members meeting at the Fish Fry, or is it gonna be Fish Fry?
The members meeting is in October, that's the annual meeting. The spring is the picnic.
On your website, it says a members meeting in the newsletter, actually, it says it's gonna be a members meeting and a fish fry.
Is that a members meeting in, spring?
It's advertised as a members meeting on your website.
Oh, really?
It's advertised like that on the newsletter. The newsletter is posted to the website. I did put out on Facebook that it was erroneously reported on the newsletter that it was a members meeting, but the members meeting is in fact in October according to the bylaws.
The members are supposed to have 2 a year, sir.
That's not what the bylaws say.
Okay, so is there any other business for tonight? If not, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. Glenn, are you gonna let anybody speak up there?
Excuse me, I apologize. I meant to ask if anybody has anything to say. Do you want to speak? Go ahead. Linda would like to speak if y'all want to sit down, please.
Linda, could you please approach the podium?
Well, first of all, you keep on referring to the bylaws and asking questions about the bylaws. Well, I wonder if you're familiar with statute 720.3033, officers and directors.
Within 90 days after being elected or appointed to the board, each director shall certify in writing to the secretary of the association that he or she has read the association's declaration of covenants, articles of incorporation, bylaws, and current written rules and policies. That means that every one of us on the board should know them. Okay, that he or she will work to uphold such documents and policies to the best of his or her ability, and that he or she will faithfully discharge his or her fiduciary responsibility to the association's members. Within 90 days after being elected or appointed to the board, in lieu of such written certification, the newly elected or appointed director may submit a certificate of having satisfactorily completed the educational curriculum administered by a division approved education provider within 1 year before or 90 days after the date of the election or appointment. You need to read this. And that's, I think it's all, I know it's all the directors, but I think it's the directors and the officers.
Thank you, that's great, thank you.
But, I think that's important. You know, y'all keep on referring to the bylaws, and I think Mr. Martin said something about, y'all, each of you should have a copy of the bylaws with you.
We do in our code.
I think that's a good idea. But I had something else I wanted to read, and this is to the people living in Three Rivers, and this is for me personally. I would like to apologize to the members of Three Rivers for failing to continue to pursue the election dispute with the DDPR after receiving a letter of dismissal. The letter came at a time when there were other circumstances I had to consider. These circumstances won out over trying to continue the election dispute. The case was dismissed due to my not taking the proper steps required in the process, and was not dismissed due to the lack of evidence of impropriety in our election. Another fact I would like to make known to our members is that Debbie McClellan took the proper steps for our members to have a special meeting concerning the October election. Our president and our chairman never made arrangements for that meeting to take place. Thank you. And I would also like to say, I noticed that when you're replacing the treasurer, you're replacing the treasurer for the length of time Evelyn had left. And that was one of my disputes. And one I had a question of.
Are you finished? Thank you.
Well,
Have a nice evening.
Yes, and you have very nicely placed everybody in here who supports you.
Have a nice evening, Linda. May God bless you. Are we finished, Mr. Thompson?
I believe we are.
I just know we all agreed not to hold that special meeting. Bethany, everybody agreed not to hold that special meeting. You was one with that, Linda. Why you wanna sit down there and take down the president? I had no idea.
Read your responsibilities.
I have, and I signed my paper and sent it in. And I'm not gonna argue with you.
How much, thanks.